This is actually so bad. And I'm soft locked. Oh my god, dude. Really? This is so bad. Welcome back to a new episode of the obscure Game Faceoff. Last episode, we've been through a game of Snake Maiden Excel and a silly game where you dated a demon. This episode will be a roller coaster of games. We'll have some of the worst games of the season and some really good ones as well. With all that being said, let's begin with the worst games, starting with this game known as Click the Tool. And well, let me just show you why this is one of the worst games of the season. I got 0 and it said great job. Alright, Google Drive.
Yay!
Yay! I love this sound effect. What is the name of the online... Wait.
Yay!
What the hell? Is this all we need to do? We just choose Google Drive all the time. Oh my god, the sounds are crackling! This learning game ended up being more of a test of reflexes than anything. I'm just gonna rate this a 0.5 out of 10 due to it at least having some gameplay elements to it. The same couldn't really be said for this next project, however. Number Wizard is pretty much just a random number generator trying to guess a number you're thinking of, and you just guide it to the right direction by clicking higher or lower. It doesn't even show you how many guesses it took to guess the number. It's literally just a nothing burger of a game, which I will rate a 0.2 out of 10. Continuing our saga of shitty obscure games is Unawakened Realm. This game is a college project that pits the player into a series of easy riddles. I've been here since the beginning, following you from life till death, influencing your every move. What am I? Time? Yeah, time, right? From the beginning, since the beginning. Yeah. And terrible and buggy RNG platforming at the end. Or is this just RNG? If this is just RNG, that's fucking bullshit and I'm gonna rate this so fucking low. This is actually so bad. And I'm soft locked. Oh my god, dude. Really? This is so bad. Well, other than that, there's nothing much else to say about this very short game. But it has the most gameplay out of the other games we've reviewed in this episode so far, and so I will give it a 0.8 out of 10. The last game we'll review from this episode's group of terrible games is known as Library Rush. Despite the good art style and chill music choices, nothing in the game works. You're supposed to pick library books from the floor and put them into the right shelves, but even that isn't implemented properly. Half the books just disappear into the void after putting them in any of the shelves, and the other half of the books are just stuck in your inventory forever without the ability to drag them into any shelf. So sadly, due to a lack of any functioning gameplay, this might be this season's first 0 out of 10. It's such a shame too, this could have been a decent simulator game, but alas, it's not. Let's finally move on to the more serviceable games in this episode that are actually functioning games, starting with Hit the Bull Eyes. From the title itself, you're probably expecting a dart game of sorts. I first thought that as well, but then I read the title again, carefully with a more literal mindset. Hit the bull's eyes, as in hitting a literal bull in his eyes. That's the whole point of this game, and I'd say it's a pretty unique premise for that. You hold click to charge your arrow and release it while aiming on a rushing bull's eyes to knock them out. The game ends when you lose 5 lives by either failing to knock a rushing bull out before it reaches the other side of the screen, or if you shoot a tomato instead. Now, on to the review. Despite the good custom-made graphics and good choice of music and sounds, the simple gameplay gets old and repetitive only after a few minutes. But since this is still a decent little game, I'll be rating this a 4 out of 10. Finally, a decent game. But can we get a better game? Maybe another trip to the forest could provide a better experience. Featuring our next featured game, On the Darkening Green. This game is a visual novel made for a game jam with procedurally generated storylines, with up to over 200 different ways the story could play out. I really like how each choice we make gives us attributes that could influence the story, such as a +1 to empathy or a +1 to violence, for example, making the experience pretty immersive. It also has accessibility options such as a text-to-speech to read out the words, a log to come back to in case you lose track of the story, and last but not least, a story autoplay feature which progresses the dialogue in a very nicely timed pace if you're too lazy to click through them. But what I found personally most mind-blowing about this game is how long the game was developed. Could it be 2 weeks like Foresty, which I would argue is still pretty good for a game this complex? Maybe a more reasonable estimate would be a month or two? 48 hours! Yes, a game with this level of complexity and work put into it was only made in 48 hours! And they say Rome couldn't be made in a day, maybe because these developers weren't around yet. The story itself isn't even half-assed garbage either. I was actually pretty invested with most of them, with each storyline having a strange, ominous, or even wholesome encounter or twist in it. I won't be covering each of the storylines, as it'll probably take me an hour to cover even half of it. But in short, the premise is you're a character called Harper who is accompanied by a longtime companion known as Glenn to venture into a forest. You'll have a bunch of unique encounters, and each of the choices you make will decide how your whole adventure goes and how it eventually ends. I really urge you to try the game yourself, and yeah, I've been singing this game's praises enough, now let me get to the personal gripes I have with this game. For one, this is just a visual novel with almost zero gameplay. Though I will still brand this as a game because as mentioned before, there are gameplay elements in the form of the personality points, and most importantly, the procedurally generated nature of the storylines keeping things fresh. The last minor problem I have is due to the random nature of the generated storylines. Sometimes they don't exactly mesh with each other too well, though this is still fine for the most part because it connects back together well at the end. So with all that being said, I will be giving On the Darkening Green a super solid 7 out of 10. And after much deliberation, I'm also giving it our second hidden gem. Congratulations! 7 out of 10 for a visual novel made in 48 hours is just insane. Kudos to the developers and artists for making such a great game in 48 hours. And now, let's move on to our last game of the episode, a Russian game made to showcase Russian culture, known as The Objective, or as translated in English, and what I'll call it from now on, In the Lens. This game has a unique premise. You're basically a blogger who's trying to make a name for herself by traveling around Russia and sharing your experiences. You gain followers and fame by taking pictures of Russian landmarks and monuments in famous places like the Red Square and whatever this park is. There are also quests and minigames that can get you extra pictures that get you a lot of followers and fame. These quests and minigames range from being boring fetch quests like picking up flowers for example, to broken quests, to some even kind of fun ones. One of the minigames that stood out to me for being the wackiest one was a minigame where you try to help a doctor take care of her overflowing patients by identifying what diseases they have. And let me tell you, the diseases range from pretty mild and standard like chickenpox, fevers, extreme sleep deprivation, to diseases that are just a bit more unusual, like, you know, vampirism and alien infections. Nothing crazy, it's just stuff we've all heard every day. But yeah, overall, this is a pretty straightforward educational game meant to educate you about Russian places, culture, and history. With all that being said, I'll get right into the review. First of all, the graphics are just amazing. I really love the cel shading graphic style of the game, and the maps are really well made. I would assume they're quite faithful to the original locations, but I've never been there so I wouldn't really know. The illustrations are also well made, and the main character alongside the NPCs have a cute chibi style to them. The sounds are good as well. The idea of being a blogger trying to make it in social media is a pretty unique one for sure. The overall quality of the gameplay is honestly quite boring, but that's on par for the course for most educational games in general. But as far as educational games go, I'd say this is one of the better ones out there, as it has quite a lot of variety in gameplay from the minigames, despite some of them being broken or just not very fun. I'd say exploring the map is still my favorite part of the game, probably followed by the doctor minigame where you identify vampires and alien infections. I do see that there's a lot more to the game in the itch.io page, but even with over 1500 followers, I couldn't seem to unlock those new areas. It might be a language issue, something I missed, or the game not being updated yet, but either way, this was a really cool educational game. I could see myself playing and enjoying this as a Russian kid in school. So yeah, with all that being said, I will rate this game. Hey everyone, Future Delta here. I was about to upload this video, but then I remembered that I got all the way up to 2300 followers in this game, and I only quit because I got soft-locked by a buggy volleyball minigame. I forgot to play it again until just now, and so I loaded my save file, and to my horror, I was reverted back to a save file from last week that only had 1200 followers. I then decided to test the game again all the way up to 1900 followers, quit the game again, and wouldn't you know it, I reloaded the game, and back to 1200 followers I go. So yeah, due to this terrible saving bug and finding out even more minigames that soft-locked you, I'm going to deduct 2 more points to this game to make the total score an unfortunate 4.5 out of 10. Well, it is what it is. So yeah guys, that's about it for the 3rd episode. We got our 3rd awarded game, which is a second visual novel getting yet another hidden gem. This is definitely not a genre I'd expect to get any awards based on my very first exposure to an obscure visual novel. Remember that disaster? Where's the fucking game? I feel like I just got scammed out of my time. That was the whole thing? And well, here we are with 2 great visual novel games smashing my expectations and proving me wrong. The next episode will be our last and will feature what I consider the most unique entries of the season. So yeah, stay tuned for that, you won't want to miss it. Feel free to give this video a like if you enjoyed it. Take care you all and see you in the next one.